Hello horror hounds and welcome back to Poevember, the month of all things Edgar Allan Poe, some things Edgar Allan Poe. This time round the film we're looking at is, as promised, Two Evil Eyes. 2 hour-long adaptations of two works from Poe, one by George Romero, one by Dario Argento, with special effects by Tom Savini. Romero, Argento, Savini, Poe. What could possibly go wrong? Well, this is certainly, if you'll excuse the cliche, this is definitely a film of two halves. And I think some of the flaws in this project, intriguing as it is, and don't get me wrong, I like this, but more as a curiosity, really, more as a curate's egg. But some of the flaws in it can maybe be brought to light by looking at the development of the project. Dario Argento conceived of this project, but when he initially conceived it, wanted more directors on board. Now, some sites differ. Some say he wanted to do a made-for-TV series, a short series, each episode based on a work of Edgar Allan Poe with a guest director, a sort of forerunner of the Masters of Horror TV series. Others suggest that he always intended for it to be an anthology movie, but wanted it to be himself, Romero, John Carpenter, and Wes Craven, suggesting that the 4 segments we would have 4 much shorter segments rather than 2 segments stretching out to about an hour each. Already, that proposed project seems a lot more robust than what we get, because both segments, although they vary in quality, do suffer from being stretched out to the sort of hour in length, especially the first section, George Romero's. Apparently, at the time, only Romero was available, so they went ahead with the project. Each took one story and developed it and shot it and sort of slammed it together as a film. And it does show. The film does seem cobbled together. There's a tiny intro which pays its dues to Poe, a shot of his grave, a shot of his house, and then we're kind of done, maybe a quote from him, and then we're straight into the opening credits of George Romero's film. The facts in the case of Mr. Valdemar. The consensus is that Romero's segment is the weaker of the two. I'm not going to be contrary about this. I agree with that. I think it's telling that Romero made, directed Creepshow, has done previous anthologies, because his section has the feel of a sort of rejected Creepshow segment, or something from Tales from the Crypt or from the Night Gallery. It does feel padded, perhaps because each segment was supposed to have been considerably shorter. It has a kind of made-for-TV aesthetic to it, and some people have called it sort of soap opera-y, and I kind of do agree with that. He takes the Poe story, the facts in the case of Monsieur Valdemar, which is about a terminally ill man who is mesmerized a number of times as he's declining, and happens to have been under the mesmeric influence while he died, and continues to communicate from beyond the grave. And it's Poe's story is nicely, goopily descriptive, especially when Valdemar is released from the hypnotic state. But that's about it. Romero builds a nice sort of modern context around it, but it does feel a bit like a soap opera storyline. Adrienne Barbeau, probably the MVP, well, not even probably, the most valuable player in this segment, plays the young trophy wife of the Mr. Valdemar of the title, who is terminally ill, and she's now past her prime. He's dying. She's very candid right up front about the fact that she basically gave him the best years of his life, gave him her body to do with as he wanted, and to show her off. And she's now cashing in. What his lawyer doesn't know is that she's colluding with Valdemar's doctor to have the will changed, and he's getting the will changed and all the documents signed by hypnotizing Valdemar. And as with the Poe story, Valdemar dies sooner than expected, but whilst under the hypnotic influence. It's nice. There's a little bit of social commentary that George Romero likes, about the greed culture. There's a couple of very pointed lines about, once we've got this money, we can get away with the murder or the lies that we've told, because people don't, when you're rich enough, people don't ask questions. You can get away with stuff. It's not as well developed as the social commentary he's had in previous movies, not least his first three Dead movies. But it's there. It's slow. It has this hour to fill, and it takes an age to get to the bit where it's the purpose of the thing, where it finally finds another gear that it jolts into. At that point, I really like Savini's work on the now reanimated frozen corpse of Valdemar talking from beyond the grave without moving his lips, the frozen face, taking the bullet shots. There's some excellent squib work and blood spatter that you just don't see anymore. Blood these days is more usually all CGI'd, and it looks atrocious. So unfortunately, I think it's a testament to how much the story drags that I was sitting there noticing how beautiful the blood squibs were. So take from that what you will. There's a nice little injection in the arm at the very end with a cameo by Tom Atkins as Frank the Vamp from the Fangs Out channel calls him Tom Always a Cop Atkins. I know he doesn't always play a cop, but ever since I heard Frank say that, hello Frank, I've always thought of him as Tom Always a Cop Atkins. He is a cop in this. So there's a last minute appearance by Tom Always a Cop Atkins as a cop, and a nice little extra zombie at the end for just a little punchy coup de grace. But ultimately it's the weaker of the two, and we move on to Argento's segment. It's better. It's much more vibrant. There are tons of little Easter eggs in this. Not just the story of the Black Cats. There are a ton of character names from other Poe stories. Harvey Keitel plays Rod Usher for a start, and his girlfriend is Eleanor, I think. No, Annabelle. Yes, sorry, Annabelle Lee. But there's a crime scene at the start, which is the Pit and the Pendulum. He's a crime scene photographer. And there's another crime scene he goes to, which is taken from the story Berenice. So that one of the lesser known Poe short stories. Argento is an avowed fan of Edgar Allan Poe since childhood. He talks about it in interviews a lot, and you can see the love for Poe in this. But you can also see the return of some of the flair the man had. It's nice. It's really nice to see him cut loose with this subject matter. The ever roaming Argento camera is there, present and correct. I mean, he puts the camera on the pendulum at the crime scene at the start. He uses the camera as the cat's POV as it roams around the house. Later on, the camera floats up and down the various levels of the house that the story's set in. Harvey Keitel is happy as always to play an absolute scumbag. He's the character that has the issue with his girlfriend's cat, the Black Cat. The cat obviously hates him. There's some really uncomfortable moments between him and the cat. I don't think it's a surprise that the second this movie stops, they put up a notice from, I forget the the body that makes sure that there was no animals suffered in the making of it. It's like front and center right at the end of the movie, because it looks like some horrible things are done to the cat. It's kind of a study of an abusive relationship, and it really picks apart Keitel's character. You know, the bully, the man who won't let the woman leave, is really at heart a coward, fearful, driven by fear. Um, there is a dream sequence in it, a nightmare, where he sees his girlfriend as a witch within a coven of witches that kill him. As well, there's a decidedly witchy owner of a bar that he visits. I think the bar's called South of Heaven, which for me qualifies this segment as a sort of distant cousin of the Three Mothers trilogy. So all in all, it's absolutely worth having for the Argento section. I think it's a real rare jewel in the man's career that you might not have seen. It's absolutely not Romero's best work. There's no real creativity there. One of the sites I read suggested that Romero initially wanted to do something with the House of Usher and use AIDS as the disease and modernise it that way. So maybe creatively his heart wasn't in the Valdemar story. I don't know. It's one of these projects that we'll have to file under what if we'd have got a 4-story anthology with not just Romero and Argento, but John Carpenter and Wes Craven. It's a curiosity at best. Worth it for the Argento, I think. If you're a fan of Argento's work, I think you owe it to yourself to check out his segments. So I know that's damning with faint praise, but there you go. That's what happens when you've got a project that just seems to be, like I said, cobbled together. I need to come up with a sign off, because I just keep these videos of mine. I just run out of steam.